Hey everyone, Anne-Marie ADHD here. Today we're going to be looking at some symptom quizzes for ADHD that I found on ADDitude.com, which is a magazine that posts about living with ADHD. It's actually a resource that I have um, really benefited from since my diagnosis. If you haven't already done so, please, if you like this content or are interested in seeing more, subscribe to my channel. And let's get into what we're looking at today. So if you go to the menu and click symptoms and tests, they actually have ADHD symptom tests on here. Well, I already know I have ADHD, but for me, sometimes just reading these out loud and just seeing what's in them kind of reaffirms or makes me feel, I guess, better about, like, I'm not the only one who deals with these problems and issues. So I hope that this video will help you with that, if anything else. Rejection sensitive dysphoria symptom test for ADHD brains. Let's do this one. So if you don't know what rejection sensitive dysphoria is, it says RSD is an intense emotional response caused by the perception that you have disappointed others in your life, and that because of that disappointment, they have withdrawn their love, approval, or respect. I feel this way 100% of the time in my life. 100% of the time. And I have felt that way since probably my early teens. And it never gets easier. So if you are somebody who deals with RSD and you're an individual with ADHD, I can relate. All right, let's see what the questions are for this. Do you experience sudden, intense bouts of rage when your feelings are hurt? I'm not really an aggressive person, but I feel like I get very worked up. So I guess I'll say sometimes. Do you experience sudden, intense bouts of extreme sadness when you think you have been rejected or criticized? Very often. Are you your own harshest critic? Absolutely, very often. Do you feel anxious in social situations because you assume that no one likes you? Very often. Do you consider yourself a people pleaser, going above and beyond to get on someone's good side? Yep, very often. Do you pass up opportunities or avoid starting projects because you're afraid you'll fail? Oh my God, I do that all the freaking time. Have you been called overly sensitive or a head case because of your strong emotional reactions? Yes. I would say often, because not a lot of people in my life will like outwardly say it, but I feel like they see it. Do you dedicate more time than is necessary to a project or become perfectionistic to make sure your work has no mistakes and is above reproach? Very often. Oh yes. Sometimes I will actually do a project and it's a really cool project, but because it is not good enough for me and I don't think it's perfect enough, I will just not post it. So I have a lot of unfinished projects on my hard drive that just, from years past, that just never were published, never put out on YouTube or social media or anything like that. And a big part of my YouTube channel and what I'm trying to actually work on with this YouTube channel is my RSD, my rejection sensitive dysphoria, because I get all in my head about what people think when they see me in a video doing my singing or my art or something like this. And I'm trying to move past that, because there are things I want to do with my life, and I want to be able to do them without feeling scared of rejection. And I start thinking, the right people will come to your channel and will enjoy your content. And if you enjoy making your content, that's all that matters. So if you're another person with ADHD who struggles with making content or YouTube, I am 100% there with you, because it is a constant battle every day just for me to get up and start working on content stuff because I get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed about making a video like this. And then I'm like, okay, if I just sit down and do it in my natural way, in my Anne-Marie ADHD way, everything will be fine. But I'm a perfectionist. So then I'm like, well, that's not good enough. So you see. Let's see. Do you ever experience your emotions as a physical sensation, as though you've been punched in the chest or physically wounded? I'll say sometimes, because for me mostly it's like an emotional thing. But sometimes I do feel like, especially when somebody's really hurt my feelings, I feel like a tightness in my throat, and I feel really anxious. Do you feel shame about the lack of control you have over your emotions? Very often, mostly related to my intense emotional reactions that have to do with like depression or misinterpreting what somebody probably didn't intend to hurt my feelings, but I let it, and I let it get to me instead of just thinking logically and moving forward from the situation. Before you were diagnosed with ADHD, were you told you might have a mood disorder? Yes. I was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was about 20. Before that, when I was 16, I was diagnosed with depression. And then as I got older, continued taking the bipolar meds. Eventually, as an adult, at, how old was I? 30, 29 or 30, I finally was diagnosed with adult ADHD. So I have been treated for bipolar disorder, as well as now I'm being treated for ADHD. Do I really know if I am bipolar? I think I do have a mood disorder, and there's mood regulation that needs to happen. So if you're a person with ADHD and you're concerned, like let's say you were misdiagnosed in your teens or as a child as having like borderline personality disorder or bipolar or something else of that nature, or depression, and you've been taking, Prozac or a mood stabilizer or something like that, talk to your psychiatrist, talk to your therapist, and say, I think I might have been misdiagnosed because I really think that this applies more to me than this other stuff, because they might be able to give you some insight. And I will say, because ADHD has so many similarities between mood disorders, some of the medicines that you're going to take as an adult with ADHD are the same medicines that they might be using to treat somebody with bipolar or somebody with borderline personality disorder or depression. So you have to think about it that way too. There's not one particular medicine that helps every person with a mood disorder or ADHD. There are many different kinds of medicines and many different ones. And you'll know whether they are working regardless of what your diagnosis is, because you're going off of how you feel. And that's something I've had to realize over the years too, is it doesn't matter what my diagnosis is so much. I know I have ADHD, I know I have some kind of mood disorder, but it doesn't matter so much to me as that label than it does how I feel. How am I feeling? How am I doing in life? Is this where I want to be? Or am I struggling, really with something that I just can't get out of? So, let's see. So that was mood disorders. Do you shy away from close friendships or romantic relationships because you worry that if people know the real you, they won't like you? I'm putting often for this, not very often, because I feel like I'm a very social individual, and I'm very, as I've gotten older, I've developed more social anxiety, where when I was younger, I was a little more outgoing, even though I had a lot of self-esteem issues, and I still do. But I will say that my communication and things with people is pretty good. However, I feel like in the realm of friendship, as an adult with ADHD, I feel like, first of all, it's really hard to make friends when you're an adult, especially new friends. I'm 34 years old, and I was just talking with my therapist the other day, and she was like, well, why do you think that it's weird to make new friends at 34 years old? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because a lot of people have these friends. Like, I have a couple friends that I have known my entire life, and we don't really talk much anymore, and we're all kind of doing our own things. But it's also nice to have somebody who lives in your area, somebody that you can talk to, vent to, hang out with, other than a family member. So I do feel like that is an area of my life that I would like to continue to work on, is friendships and building friendships, because I think that's something I missed out in college and all up until this point. I like refused to actually make friends. I went to parties, I did the parties, I was wild, but I never actually made any true friends from that. And that is something that I definitely regret, because that connection is important. Anyway, let's see. Do you assume the worst in commonplace interactions, worrying you will be fired every time your boss calls you into... Oh my gosh, yes. So anytime any authority figure wants to speak to me, I just outright assume that I did something wrong, and then I get really anxious about it. Do you think that you cannot go on feeling this way? I do think that very often. Do you avoid meeting new people or trying new things because your fear of rejection and criticism is so strong? Very often. Absolutely. Because, I am so conscientious of what people think of me. So I definitely have a large amount of social anxiety. All right, so my score for this was a 54 out of 60. The higher the point total, the greater the likelihood that you show signs of RSD. Okay, so, yeah, probably. Definitely have that going on with me. Let's look at some other symptom tests. Female ADHD, symptoms in women and girls. I want to try this one, because this is something that isn't talked about a lot, but women and girls experience ADHD in a very different way than a lot of males do. And it's usually not spoken about, it's not talked about a lot, and that's kind of been the reason why there are so many women now who are getting diagnosed with ADHD, who have gone undiagnosed for so long, because nobody realized that these internalized symptoms they're having are ADHD. Let's see. Are you called a slob or spacey? Yes and no. Okay, I kind of am a little bit of a slob. And what I mean by that is I will, the laundry will be washed and dried, but it will never get put away and put in the closet. It'll always be in a pile on the floor. Not always. I try to, but a lot of times, my house is kind of like there's clutter and things. But I know where everything is, although I lose things all the time. I would say that people might call me spacey more than they will call me a slob, though. And that's because I don't typically have a lot of guests over here. And also, I can be in the middle of a conversation with someone and be like, yeah, and I'll be thinking about something like way far beyond what they're talking about. Like, I'm in my own little world. So I will say, sometimes for that. Do you despair of ever fulfilling your potential and meeting your goals? Oh, every single freaking day. Every single day. Do you feel like you are passing for normal, but you are really an imposter? Okay, I'm going to put often for this. I don't always feel this way, but I will tell you, when I was a public school teacher, for some reason, I was able to kind of function under the radar as a teacher, even though I was completely disorganized. I had a million things going on in my head, and everything with the education field is a whirlwind already. So I think that's why I was able to kind of like seem normal, even if I had like an internal chaos happening all of the time when I was a teacher. But I used to always feel like I wasn't like my other coworkers. I was some kind of imposter. Like I didn't belong there. All these other teachers, you know, they're trained, they're well put together. They know how to do this stuff, but I will never be like that. I'm an imposter just here, and I'm not really that as good of a teacher as they are. I always felt that way, and I think that has to do a lot with self-confidence, and I'm definitely that way in a lot of other areas of my life. Do you feel overwhelmed in stores, at the office, or at parties? Oh yeah, every time. Every time I go to the store, I'm going to have a mini panic attack or a mini anxiety attack because of all the people. I don't like people because when I go into a store, I feel like everybody is staring at me. And I'm like, okay, everybody's staring at me, everybody's judging me, everybody's like just ridiculous thoughts, you know, that's like these people aren't staring at you. These people are getting their groceries. They're in their own like thing, but you think that they're, you know, judging you. So yeah. Let's see. Are you clueless as to how others manage to lead consistent regular lives? Yes. And I have a good one for that. So when I first started taking ADHD medication, Adderall, I was flabbergasted because I woke up and I took the medicine and I had a very normal day and I got a lot of good things done. And my mind felt not empty, but it felt calm. And I didn't have a million things buzzing around in my head. And I said, is this what it feels like for normal people? Is this how normal people function? Like they don't have a million thoughts in their head or pictures and things going on in their head at one time. Like right now I have a picture in my head and I'm also talking to you guys. I'm also thinking about, you know, what I'm going to eat for dinner and what, you know, I mean, I did not know that wasn't normal. And so it's shocking, you know, how do people live in this way? And it's hard to see that when you've always felt and lived a certain way in your head, if that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense. Is your time and energy taken up with coping, staying organized, and holding it together with no time for fun or relaxation? Often, because I feel like I try to have fun and relax a lot. Sometimes I will escape into my hobbies when I don't want to deal with the pressure of something and I'm really overwhelmed by something and I don't know how to address it or deal with it. Then I will do the fun things, but I'm not doing them in a way that's healthy. I'm not having fun. I'm escaping into them and being anxious and depressed. So, does time, money, paper, or stuff dominate your life and hamper your ability to achieve your goals? Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of these questions, you know, regular everyday people could respond, you know, to these questions like, yes, yes, absolutely. But in the context of ADHD, what you have to understand is these feelings and these things are not just like, oh, you know, every once in a while or every couple times a month I have this feeling, you know, and it just, I get over it, I get on with my day, and I finish out the month. People with ADHD deal with these actual thoughts, and they are like intrusive thoughts because we're constantly shaming ourselves and making ourselves feel guilty about everything every single day. I go through all of these stages throughout a period of 24 hours. And I wake up the next morning and I'm like, okay, time to start this over again. Time to try to function again. Let's see if I can actually function today. So it's more than just the feeling. Everybody can relate to some of those feelings, but it's the timeline of those feelings that really impacts a person with ADHD and overwhelms them. Do you feel as if life is out of control and that it's impossible to meet demands? Absolutely. Every single day. Do you hesitate to have people over to your house because you're ashamed of the mess? And here's another one like anybody could relate to, but for me, it's like all that. I never invite people over. Never invite people over because I know my house looks like a tornado. Like, I know it looks like a tornado, and I'm ashamed because I'll go visit other people or go to my family's, and I'll see their nice houses and their nice places in comparison and think, wow, what am I doing with my, like, cluster and clutter and chaos that is my home, you know? So, I think a lot of people can relate to that. But it is also a difficult thing for people with ADHD. They really, it's hard to have people over when you feel like that. Have you ever been thought of as selfish because you don't write thank you notes or send birthday cards? That's a super specific question, and I don't know. I don't know that that's, like, a good question to ask. I would have... It's very specific about the thank you notes and the birthday cards. So I'm just going to say rarely, because no. I will say, though, that people do sometimes think I'm selfish because I'll try to interrupt the conversation because I have something of thought popped up in my head and I really need to say it or I'll forget it. So if I interrupt somebody while they're talking, they'll be like, she's so selfish. Or when I am talking, I talk a lot about myself. And, you know, that can come off as self-centered, selfish, narcissistic. So yes, certain situations, but I wouldn't say, like, because I don't write thank you notes or birthday cards. Do you have trouble balancing your checkbook? Absolutely. I have a lot of trouble with finances. I do it, but I struggle with finances. Do you start the day determined to get organized and end the day feeling defeated? Y'all, that is the story of my life pretty much every single day. Okay? That is every single day for me. Do you feel that you have better ideas than other people but are unable to organize them or act on them? Yes. And that's why I say I look at all these talented people out there, you know, YouTubers and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is doing so many cool things. And I don't think I'm better than people, but I'm like, oh, I would love to do something like that. Or, ooh, I had this cool idea too that I'd like to put out there. But unfortunately, I become overwhelmed in the process. And then I just can't function. I can't do it. I can't put this into steps, and I can't organize it in a way that I'll be successful with it. I'm spontaneous. I am a spontaneous content creator, if that makes sense. I think that's how I'll describe myself on here from now on. I'm a very spontaneous content creator because I want to have a plan, I want to have steps, I want to have things organized, but what usually ends up happening is spontaneity, because I get overwhelmed trying to create a routine for myself, even though I know that a routine would help me. So I don't know. I hope there are other people out there who are feeling some of these same feelings, and this is reaffirming for you, because that is the whole purpose of me recording this video, is to say you are not alone in any of these feelings that you're feeling. All right, I think we have like two more questions, a couple more. Do you feel like you're always at one end of a deregulated activity spectrum, either a couch potato or a tornado? Yep. Either lots of energy or none at all. Do requests for one more thing at the end of the day put you over the top emotionally? Yes. Okay. If my plans change, if my schedule changes in the middle of the day, and I had already planned for, to do A, B, and C, and then somebody's like, oh, we got to go do this now too, I will have a panic attack and I'll have a hissy fit, because if something is not the routine that I woke up that morning thinking it was going to be, my schedule, then I lose it. Do you shut down in the middle of the day feeling assaulted? Very often, yes, I do. That's usually around the time that I take a depression nap during the day. I just take a depression nap because I'm like, okay, I'll be depressed, I'll nap, I'll wake up, maybe I'll be feeling better after my nap. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Do you watch others of equal intelligence and education pass you by? I feel like I do. I can say that I feel like I do. But we can feel like that's happening, but it might not be happening because other people have lots of things going on in their lives too. You know, we often think that we are so flawed and imperfect, and there are all these intelligent, perfect people who have perfect lives that are just walking right by us, and they actually have a lot of problems in their lives too. Is it impossible for you to shut out sounds and distractions that don't bother others? Yes. Okay, I will tell you. Um, you know how some people like to sleep with noise, like the TV on or something? I cannot stand that. Because if the TV is on when I'm going to sleep, my brain will hook onto the dialogue of whatever is on the TV, and I won't be able to sleep because I am literally just focusing on that dialogue. I do actually though sleep with a box fan on because I like that like white noise. I didn't used to always like that. I used to be more of a like I need complete quiet and silent sleeper, but now I do use a box fan. But yeah, it's things that sounds and noises that don't bother other people kind of bother me sometimes because I'm like trying to focus on something, and then there's like this one little thing like out there that's making a noise or something that's making it completely difficult for me to focus on, you know, sleep or whatever it is that I'm trying to do. All right, so my results for this one were 65 out of 72. And just like the other one, the higher the point total, the greater the likelihood that you show signs of attention deficit disorder. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in this website, Attitude Magazine, I'm going to put the link in the description below, as well as the link to those 2 quizzes if you're interested in taking those yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, and please subscribe to my channel to see more content like this. I will be posting more content about living with ADHD. Also post stuff about all of my arts, music, beauty, makeup, all sorts of other stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!